Good evening, Bill Wadman.
Good evening, Sandy. How are you?
Fine.
I like how formal you are with me all the time.
Well,
William George Wadman Jr.
one has got to start properly.
Hmm.
Um, Last time we spoke of conversation, and I mentioned last time that I do often, usually, I watch back what we've recorded.
Hmm.
And the thing that really stood out to me about our last talk was that it might seem as if I don't have good conversations, or that I feel somehow as I'm unable to have conversation. And I was thinking about this because actually, for me, that would be a really silly thing to say, not just because it's not true, but also because it would be a public declaration of the opposite of what I'm trying to actually achieve in my life. And I set about thinking about what it is I'm trying to achieve in my life. And obviously, I'm a teacher, and I've been a teacher for all of my adult life. And I'm also a dialogue facilitator. And so I was thinking about how misleading it might be to listen to somebody like me who advertises himself as somebody who will come into your institution or your business, your place of education, and I will facilitate dialogue. How strange it should be that I would say that I feel like I can't converse. So I wanted to try and
Hmm.
clarify it. And then I thought, what is dialogue? And often we're in dialogue, you and I. We're having a conversation, but we're also in dialogue, and there's a subtle difference. Can you try and say what it is?
Difference between conversation and dialogue.
Hmm.
Um, I think dialogue is on a particular topic, perhaps, where conversation is more free flowing. I think that there's a more. It's funny that we started this whole thing and you called me by my name and then I made a crack about it because there's a certain formality to dialogue that isn't there in conversation to me.
Okay. I mean, I suppose the word dialogue sets it up you're right, in a sort of formal way, although I tend to feel that dialogue is something that has its own life. Once it's up and running, it it is not for certainly not for me in the role as facilitator to enforce a direction for it. It
Sure, but
must find
conversation
itself.
doesn't have the same trait.
Well, it's interesting you talk about this formality with conversation. There's a lightness to conversation, isn't there? Where one is talking with friends. That's usually how I would perceive conversation. Dialogue does have a seriousness to it because I think dialogue is a serious business. And though we
Yeah.
might approach it lightheartedly, nonetheless, dialogue, I think, should be where we have space to explore and to
Yeah.
inquire deeply.
I was going to say, I also feel like dialogue that I would say that I'm going to use a very enlightenment Western term right now. Uh, that it should progress to like that we're yearning to find some goal at the end of it. You know what I mean? That it's people trying to suss something out. You know, there's a point to it. There's a direction to it. Not necessarily any direction that's particularly advanced on it by, say, the facilitator as you are, but that um, there's a goal somehow.
Well, it's interesting because I understand what you mean, but I would say that as somebody who, I mean, if I reverse a little bit, dialogue, dialogos through words, the
Yeah,
inquiry is for us to share in dialogue.
yeah, but to find truth, no?
But I think yes, there may be an agenda because the facilitator or the center where one visits to participate in these things may come up with a start point. But I think really to say that there's a kind of guidance somehow to it is still that rankles a bit, and I don't think that's quite true. Mm, it would be good for us to think that in our shared experience of speaking, we could approach something without intention.
Ah, it's interesting though, because I would say that conversation has less intention than dialogue.
This is really a very kind of academic study of itself here, though, and I don't want us to disappear up our own arses about this.
No, but I mean, I think it's worth a couple minutes. It's not killing us.
No, sure, but conversation, you're right. Again, this idea of conversation between friends, and dialogue is formalized somehow. But again, this idea of intention and inquiry, an intention mustn't be to look for something because then the dialogue is void, I would say. You know, if you're
I
saying
understand. You think I'm saying that there's a particular goal that's defined before the dialogue starts.
yes, which would absolutely be,
I agree. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there is some sense of like you and I are going to discuss this thing in order to, I don't know, find some common ground or teach each other something or help enlighten in some way, you know?
yes, I mean, it's okay for me to say that in dialogue with you, I know that you will teach me something because inevitably we're teaching each other things all the time. And I'm finding out for myself through our conversations, whether it's something that you say and it's the thing you say that teaches me or my reaction to it that teaches me.
Sure.
So there's lots of learning in dialogue. And so I suppose it would be right to say that one will learn in dialogue. But to make that the intention of it,
Then what is the intention in your mind?
well, that's what I'm wondering about with you. What is the point to dialogue?
I feel to me it's about putting two people's heads together in some way, you know,
Mm,
being able to think of something perhaps on a higher order than you can alone. Um, there's a cooperation somehow.
mm,
Uh, it's I don't know. There's something about it that feels maybe it's like the sort of the sort of Greek connotations of it all.
hmm. Anyway, when we think
Yeah.
about who we enter into this space with, I'm going to just say that dialogue is a space, it's a shared space. Um, I've thought of all the many people that I've encountered through a formalized dialogue and how full of vitality dialogue is, even when it's very slow in its process. It is still something that is full of life. It can be rigorous, it can be really challenging to be in earnest dialogue, but also it's something of enormous beauty. And I'm saying this as an observer and also on reflection. I might not think this, during a dialogue, let's say, because to think it might be to take away from the inquiry I'm actually faced with. But I was wondering about all the many artists that you and I know
Mhm.
and how they express through their work their vision of the world. And I wonder about the conversations they have in the background that enable them. And I mean, this photograph is a famous photograph of Freud and Behan, the Irish poet, by Daniel Farson. Do you know Daniel Farson?
I don't think I do, but I love this picture.
A very prominent, influential writer, photographer, television personality in the UK.
I feel like these two people are sort of, I don't know, some platonic ideal of what people think that artists are, you know, like 1950s cool clothes, but really quirky and weird, and they're probably drunk and they're talking, you know what I mean? Like all of that.
Yes. I mean, I don't know for sure, but everything I know about these two characters and everything I know about where they would have been when this photograph was taken in
Yeah,
Soho in London,
yeah,
yes, they absolutely were of that kind of bohemian set that
yeah,
were in the sort of drinking dens of Soho, by midday every day,
yeah,
absolutely slaughtered.
yeah.
And actually, just to mention, it's not a happy mention, but Behan died very young at 41. I think in 1964. He
Isn't
was
it crazy that you and I are significantly older than that guy ever was?
Yes, it is father, but the thing that triggered me about that is that thinking about this word slaughter, Behan was slaughtered by alcohol. I mean, he
Mm,
really was. His life was dominated by it in a way that made him at once riveting and awful. And obviously then died at a very young age. But going back to this idea of dialogue, I imagine the dialogues between people like Freud and Francis Bacon,
hmm.
Behan. I imagine the dialogues between someone like Lee Miller and Penrose and Picasso when he visited, these characters from our 20th century art historical past and the people they kept company with, what they would talk of, how
Do you
they
think the
might.
reality of those would be as good as what we imagine they would be?
Who can say?
Yeah,
I imagine, because I love to be romantic about these things,
yeah,
that they were engaged in the most meaningful dialogues
of course.
all the time,
Yep,
even when raucously drunk.
yep.
But aren't we always in dialogue with something?
Yeah, does there have to be an honesty for dialogue to happen? Is art just one-way dialogue?
Mm. Well,
You know?
again, this is all part of the question really with this. What is dialogue? I mean, I can tell you what it means, as I said. I can think of examples when I have participated in a formalized dialogue setting. I can think about how I run dialogues as the facilitator, but I'm still searching for it, really. What is dialogue? Could you effectively, truthfully package it for anyone? And of course, I'm attempting to through my work,
Yeah,
but when we know it.
yeah.
And if we're in
You're
it,
also assuming these two guys are in dialogue versus just having a conversation about what they ate for breakfast.
I mean, they were probably talking gibberish.
Yeah, or talking about women or talking about whatever, right? Yeah.
I mean, none of those things are discounted as dialogue topics, are they? But
No, no.
um, I think we could get off the pedestal of thinking that dialogue always has to be about very lofty
Lofty.
things. Yet I suppose it always is inevitably. So even if we started in a so-called small way with dialogue, the expansiveness, the room to wander, meander in dialogue is such that then perhaps there's an infinite space in which to inquire.
The wonder of where it leads.
Mm. Anyway, this is Nancy Atakan, the Turkish artist. In her work, this is from Passing On, which is a big book, like a monograph. This is Passing On Too, which is just a series from that particular bookwork. Mm, we're looking at an artist who is in dialogue with really um, the entire history of womanhood.
Sure.
And it makes me think that even when we're not actually speaking out loud, as I said already, we're already in dialogue and we're always in dialogue with something. If you consider your experience of life, behind that even, there's a dialogue, isn't there?
Sure. To some extent, life is just a series of overlapping dialogues.
Sure. And I mean, we've got, our intergenerational transmission and
Sure.
archetypes, and we're speaking back through the annals of time to our most ancient ancestors in this deep dialogue. It's like a voiceless dialogue that's going on all the time. I mean, in this work, Atakan is really expert at kind of dissecting gender and social structures and hierarchies and so on, thinking about womanhood as it happens now and also how it relates to itself over a vast and unreported history, let's say. I think it's interesting as a facilitator to see how work like this might be used to actually begin a dialogue in a group. And that where things can seem quite opaque or oblique, they often have the best potential to get people thinking and talking.
How is this series? What is the first one? If this is passing on to, what does the first one look like?
Well, passing on is just the name of the monograph.
Oh, okay, okay. Oh, so there's a lot of stuff in there. Got it.
Yeah, so I mean, the whole archive of her work is really interesting, especially if you like a kind of narrative quality to work that doesn't just have to be standalone pieces, but is somehow all interconnected, no matter how
Sure.
diverse. There's a sort of lineage to everything that she does. It's not like here is one piece of work that goes on a wall over here, and here's another piece of work that goes on a wall over here. It somehow lives and breathes itself through all the different iterations of what she's making. And actually, she calls her practice, her whole practice is about is dialogue. Her whole approach is art as dialogue, really, dialogue
Well,
with
to
life.
some extent, she's in conversation, she's in dialogue with herself, with her
Yeah,
past work that she's made. Yeah.
but this is what I'm asking you. You're in dialogue with yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, usually it's involves telling myself how crap everything I make is, but yes, I
I don't
I'm in,
actually mean the inner monologue, Bill, though.
I no, I know. It's interesting because of the work that I do
Mm,
is so because I almost entirely take portraits, it you get into the question of, the old adage of, is it a picture of me or a picture of them, Um, but I think it leans towards the pictures of them. I'm certainly in dialogue with my style and techniques and the way all of those things morph over time,
mm.
you know? Like
It
I could
doesn't
look
have.
at a picture of mine and tell you within 2 years when I took that, not because I remember taking it, but I can look at the picture and say, that's how I used to shoot back then, and it looked like that,
Mm.
which is weird to me.
I don't think that I mean, dialogue doesn't have to be overt, does it? Are you thinking of someone like Dwayne Michaels,
Sure.
who frequently photographs himself with himself? And,
Yep.
you know, as you know, I love Michaels's
You
work.
love, do you love the combination of the words and the pictures, I think, is a
I
big
do, but
part of it.
we've talked before about how the sort of, it's not whimsy, but I guess the mysticism of it.
It's yeah, it's edging on absurdism often, you know, to me. But then again, I'm not an absurdist, so everything that gets close to absurdism feels like absurdism to me.
Is it absurd to inquire deeply into something so that you go way beyond where you once felt safe with it?
Yeah, you go out to sea, as it were.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I think it's arguably the smart thing to do. I find it very difficult to do
Mm.
because I'm a scaredy cat.
Yes, and I'm looking at what that fear actually is because I mean, I can speak from personal experience a little bit. As I said, I work as a dialogue facilitator and I go beyond being that thing because I'm also introducing a kind of element of performance and a transpersonal kind of therapy in what I do and work with within a group. So that might look like me becoming the thing that the dialogue begins as.
Yeah,
So it might mean that I model something for the group that they need to see.
you're like
They
the
get.
the grandma emperor penguin showing the people how to do it.
That sounds crass and arrogant.
I
And
didn't like what like that what I'm saying is the crass and arrogant, or like the
no,
idea that you were in that position is crass and
the
arrogant.
idea is crass and arrogant. What I'm trying to,
But
maybe it is crass and arrogant. I don't think, I hope it's not. What I mean is that I think to be the artist practitioner in the space of dialogue is an interesting space to hold, because I often embody the thing, as I said, that we're beginning with. So, I mean, the easiest one to describe in this forum is to say that, I might model grief.
mhm,
So I have to be very in touch with these things in myself so that they can come forth. And I'm not doing it as a lie.
sure.
I'm not an actress.
But in some ways, doing that gives other people permission to perhaps go there along with you.
Sure. I mean, I think there's lots of crossover actually with what Atakan does. It's also people like Anna Mendieta. We're kind of approaching this practice. I mean, I would say these people are visual artists, whereas I'm not necessarily saying that what I do is visual art, although it is part of the visual art vernacular, even though it's performative. With dialogue, that going further thing is, as you describe, is a very frightening thing for a lot of people.
Sure,
And so it's quite good for them to have the anchor. And that
sure.
doesn't mean that I'm not allowing them to go far away from our point. It just means that I'm showing them that the start is still there, it's still present in everywhere we go in that dialogue. Because
I
that's
think
also
that,
fundamentally true, isn't it? The start is always present.
yeah, I think do you think it's interesting. Do you think that dialogue precludes a beginning and an end? Is it contained ultimately? It's funny, you see it as exploration, but it's in some ways contained exploration, right? It's like we're going to sit down and explore this, and then we're going to stop exploring and move on to something else.
Well, we can claim to stop, but really dialogue is life.
Yeah,
It's
and the participants can keep going in their own head after they
it's
leave.
the life's work, isn't it?
Sure.
To be in dialogue. I'm asking myself, I'm asking myself all the time because this is what I do.
Yeah.
And I'm asking myself about it always. I'm not resting. I'm not saying, I know what this thing is and therefore I shall stop looking at it.
Right.
I look at it all the time. And I don't mean that I'm continuously seeking to revise what it is, but I'm aware that what dialogue is a living thing.
Yep.
Thoughts are dead, they're memory, but to come up upon something, I can't claim to ever instruct insight, for example, but I might happen upon one in
Right.
a dialogue setting. That mustn't be its intention to find insight or to gain insight. But what's
No, but I think
interesting,
that's an there's an acknowledgement of that inside it. That insight can be found, right?
but also if we look at that, even I guess there's like a linguistic element to this as well. We find insight. It's almost like insight exists beyond us, even though it's of us. And once we have come up upon it or unveiled it, it never leaves.
Yeah. Or at least that's the goal, I think, or the desire
I'm not
that
sure
we
if
collect insights,
I'm not sure if desire comes into
Maybe
insight.
it's just me.
Anyway, I'm not sure if we're still on topic or not.
There
I
is no
can't even
topic.
facilitate a dialogue
Ah,
with.
there's a Krishnamurti quote. Go ahead. Come
No,
on, read
the
it to me.
reason I actually hadn't put this in, and it was just this evening when I came back from work and I opened up my emails, and every day in my inbox I get the Krishnamurti daily quote.
Hmm.
And I just thought it was funny that I had done this for us to look at tonight, and then, you know, dialogue. And then,
Hmm.
although this isn't about dialogue as such, there's lots in it that I think we could link up with. And Krishnamurti spoke often
Listen, I,
about
I think he
dialogue.
was agreeing with me here. I see a lot of my thoughts in here.
I
Come
just
on, read
sometimes
it.
I think that it's okay to look to someone else's thinking or teachings
Hmm.
And it's okay to say, yeah, I understand that.
Mhm.
So when Krishnamurti here is saying that we must kind of bear a responsibility of thinking together, I really love this for dialogue because there's an enormous responsibility in being in dialogue with others.
I
And
mean,
I
that
think,
leans into the seriousness we discussed at the beginning.
yes, and that's what I was going to say. So when I'm thinking about conversation, conversation doesn't have usually the depth that I think we must be responsible for in thinking together.
Hmm.
And also, what absolute freedom to not agree or disagree, just that we share.
Yep.
And I mean, this might sound like idealism gone nuts, but really, truly, when I consider this, it seems like the truly sane thing to be, to do, to share without agreeing or disagreeing, share, to be in that floating world. And I think in part dialogue is that.
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea too, the last line, we're sharing together in our thinking, like that there's this Venn diagram of like you and me and the sort of there's an overlap of what we're doing here that is sort of, I don't know, some I was going to say subset, but it's almost like a superset of the thinking of two people.
Superset, yeah. Well, we could start going into consciousness now, but I think we ought to leave that for another time, Bill.
Okay. Another time.
Anyway, as usual, I can only report that I do truly love dialoguing with you.
Aw, right back at you.